Hi everyone, thank you for joining us for the 29th webisode of Tech Tip Tuesday. I'm here with Howard Young, Solutions Architect at Zadara Storage, filling in for Christy today. She's away at reInvent in Las Vegas. Today, Howard is going to discuss a topic we opened up at Zadara Summit: which storage is right for you? As always, if you have any questions, please use the control panel on your right-hand side to send in your questions. If it's relevant or urgent, I'll stop Howard and ask it right away. If not, we'll just wait to the end. So thanks for joining. Let's begin. Howard, go ahead and take it away.
Yeah, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. This is a rebroadcast from our business section at our Zadara Summit last week. So we have two tracks. One is a business track and one is a technical track, and this is the business track. I gave 3 presentations at the summit, and this is the business one. It's a little high level, but there's some really good information here. And the next week we'll go over VPSA sizing and how to get the best performance out of your VPSA. And following that, we're going to look and see if we can get Eric back on and do a Docker demonstration. So, this is sort of a sidetrack of the business, but we'll get back into the tech tips in the next 2 weeks. So, hopefully my thing is going. There it goes. There we go. There I am. So, just a brief introduction. I'm Howard Young, of course, and if you've been watching Tech Tip Tuesday for quite a while now, you know who I am. I don't like to talk a lot about myself, but most important thing here is that that I provide you good information and you get something out of each one of these tech tips. And of course, Zadara Storage, if you're not familiar with Zadara Storage, we provide a universal solution that evolves with your business. So we provide any data type, any location, any protocol. So if you're in the cloud, we can provide the block, file, and object. And the only exclusion that we don't provide right now in the public cloud is Fiber Channel, but we do provide that on-premise, and simply because the cloud providers do not provide Fiber Channel, but we support the other protocols. Now, when you're moving to the cloud or in general trying to use any type of storage, you really need to look at 5 steps. And basically what you have is requirements, location, connectivity, and I also put in an enterprise versus infrastructure as a service, just to contrast what we provide, because we sort of provide a service, but we also provide infrastructure. And the 5th criteria is going to be management. And of course, as Summer pointed out, I have a Q&A type of session as part of the summit. And if you have any questions, just go ahead and type something in the chat window, and we'll answer those. So the storage requirements, what we do is whenever we get a new client or a new customer on board, we always ask them, simple question to see what is the best storage for their use. So we look at how much storage they need. We get questions like, well, I need 10 gigabytes, and it's really, when you get into enterprise solution, that's probably not the right solution for you. So we always qualify how much storage they need, what type of growth rate are they growing at. Or you start at 1 terabyte and grow to 10 terabytes, and then what kind of performance. So they may have a database application that needs 10,000 IOPS, or they may just need a few hundred IOPS. So that's going to qualify on the type of storage that we're going to place for the software-defined storage that we offer in the cloud and on-premise. We also ask about security requirements, and of course, that's probably the most important thing at protecting your data. Connectivity, are they going to connect through direct connects or Azure, or are they going to connect off-site? And the type of storage, block, file, object, and importantly, management. Are they planning to manage their data or the storage itself, or is it something that we can help them with? And of course, some of the basic storage terms, and this is very, very high level, but when you ask the questions, we're talking to executives, they don't really understand some of these terms, but just to point out some of the basic storage terms, we have block, which is the lowest level, and it's accessible at a block device, and you can access that at a 512 byte boundary, and every 512 byte. That's basically the lowest level you can access the data with. But on top of the block, we build file systems, and some of the common file systems which we use is Btrfs, XFS, and ext4. These are Linux file systems, but if you're running a Windows system, you're probably more familiar with NTFS, and that will go right onto the applied right on the block level. For NFS or any type of NAS type of solution, we have CIFS or SMB. Sometimes it's called Samba, which is just the network type of or network attached storage that is used by well, not Windows, but that is a type of program, but Windows and Linux. The more common use of CIFS and SMB or Samba is going to be Windows, and NFS is going to be used mostly by Linux and Solaris. And the other storage type is object, which is basically a key value type of system. So when I originally did this presentation, it was for a realtor, and I used the location. And if you're familiar, or if you ever talk to a realtor, this is where you want to go, when you buy property. But if you look at the green dots here, these are some data centers that we have our private storage in, and some public. If you look at here in Irvine, where Zadara is down in the red, we can access data or access storage all within the general area of Los Angeles, even if it's from Irvine, and it meets most of the requirements. And the reason why is that it's based on the speed of light. Now, in a vacuum, it's roughly 300 million meters per second, but in a when you're going down the wire, it's a little bit slower, about 2/3 that. And so if you look at the latency, at 100 kilometers, it's about a millisecond of latency. So we had a call this morning. The customer wanted to connect from Sao Paulo, Brazil, into Virginia, and it's about 7,600 kilometers. And so, well, won't the latency kill me? And I said, well, it's going to be about 76 milliseconds if you do the math correct. That even at that distance, there are some applications that you can actually use. But of course, proximity is the best and most important requirement. So the closer you can get your storage to directly within your data center, the better performance you're going to get. So, for example, if you run Docker right on a VPSA, it's a local disk access. So the latency is not an issue. You can get the best performance, incredible speed at the SSD, or even on the even on the SATA type of drives. Now, for disaster recovery, where you place your storage is also important, because what you want to do is, if you do a DR from Oregon to California, and we have a big earthquake, it's most likely it's going to affect both areas. There's a major subduction zone in the Oregon, and if that goes down, I imagine a lot of California will go down too. So what you want to do is try to avoid a major area. So you go like a disaster recovery from the East Coast to West Coast, or into the center of this Midwest area, where we have some private storage that with our partners, so you can store your data for disaster recovery. Migration of the data is also an issue. We offer migration utilities, so we can provide a QNAP, which is a small NAS, which you can load your data on and migrate into AWS or into our cloud. And so we just connect the NAS, you ship it through FedEx or UPS, and then we can copy the data for you. The migration, you can also do it over the network, but it's kind of slow. And if you have more than a terabyte of data, you want to basically copy it to a device and have us copy it over to your VPSA. And the other thing is the VPN. You can connect to the VPN to your storage. So we have a lot of interesting architectures that connect from on-premise and directly into AWS through VPNs, and they actually do work quite well from distance. So we have example, we go from Atlanta into Virginia. We have something going from Houston into Oregon, and the VPNs do work quite well with our storage and infrastructure provided by us and through AWS. So if you look at some of your storage options, if you're a remote office or a VPN to the cloud, some of the best things is object or a Dropbox type of application, NFS or CIFS. What you want to do is avoid latency above 9 milliseconds. So if you're hitting latency like 10 milliseconds, you probably don't want to do NFS or CIFS. Just the turnaround of opening files and locks and things is can be very slow, kind of painful for your application. So you want to measure your latency with with that in mind. But if you're using object or any type of Dropbox, it's not an issue. If you're within the same cloud, you have local storage, a SAN or NAS or object. And the latency under that, it's going to be under a millisecond, so you're going to have some really good performance both for database and for any other type of file system. The migration, what we have is you can do file, which is it's a file migration, which you could use from Windows. You use Robocopy, or for Linux, rsync. And then I mentioned the migration appliances, or you could do OPAS mirroring. So we do have a couple contracts where we'll place the whole storage array, do a mirroring between the two on site, and then what we'll do is move the equipment to offsite. This could be petabytes of data, and then basically resynchronize the two mirrors, and it's all done to transparent. You do a resync, and everything's up and running. And so we can do move equipment around and migrate petabytes of data using our OPAS. And of course, if you're doing any type of disaster recovery, the best thing is going to be block incremental. You also some disaster recoveries do object. We do an object or backup or block images to the object store, and allows us to do a zero capacity type of recovery for any type of backup. So if you look at the way you connect to the cloud, there's really two options: public and private. And if you go to any cloud provider today, by default that's private. So if you go to AWS, Azure, even Google, when you create an account, that's a private account. And anything you want to make public, you have to provide an edge interface, either through a VPN, SSH, or you have to open up some ports. So if you have a web server, you need to open up the ports. By default, those are closed. It's a closed system, so your data is very secure within the data center, and you're using secured access or a VPN to access your data. So there's really no need to worry about if the data is secured. By default, our data is also, the VPSA is in a secure data center, and we also provide encryption at rest and also in flight if you need to do that. Now the network itself between, for example, AWS and the Zadara clouds, that's all on a private VLAN, so it's not shared by customers. You have a private network established between the two clouds. Here's an example of how we connect through AWS. We do that through direct connection. What we do, we provide two 10 gig links. And if you have multiple AWS accounts, you can connect the two accounts or multiple virtual private clouds through multiple direct connects to the same storage. We also have the capability to do cross connects. So if you have servers in a data center and they're within the same region and we could do a direct connect, we could do a direct connect to our storage, and so you can have your compute in a data center, and you can also have compute also in AWS. So we do have some customers that do that, and what happens is they'll have their primary compute, and then in a data center, and then as they need to expand up during the holiday seasons, they'll just spin up more and more EC2 instances to handle the workload. So on the edge itself, we're talking about everything is private. If you need to make a public interface, you need to provide some kind of proxy. In this example, to access the private storage in Zadara, you would have to put a proxy using Nginx running on an EC2 instance, and then you can access, for example, OwnCloud, which is running in Docker, and the backup to S3, that's also private. That goes over the front end. It's not shown here, but it's actually going from OwnCloud into the AWS through your virtual private cloud and up to here. If you don't need to have a private connection to your S3, we can also do it through a public interface, and that's also available for that type of connectivity. And just to compare what is available today between a cloud provider such as Azure or AWS and what we provide, Zadara. So local storage, these are perfect examples that you should be using. You should be using NFS, SMB, and Block. These are all available at a local storage by the cloud provider. And in some cases, if you have some very demanding applications, you may want to look at this. We're not meant to replace that. What we can do for local storage is provide iSCSI mounts, and that'll allow you to give you a block device and you give really good performance. If you need to do any type of shared or clustering, you won't be able to do that through the public cloud providers today. And what we do is provide iSCSI for that use case. So if you want to use a SQL cluster, you'd use iSCSI in Zadara, for example. NFS is for the cloud provider. If you want to do that, AWS provides EFS, which is Elastic File System, and it's a NFS 4 protocol, 4.1 to be exact. Or you could build your own. So we'll have customers trying to build their own NFS, and eventually just say, well, let's just use Zadara. It's a better product. We don't have to manage it or anything like that. The one thing with EFS, it's a fantastic product. You're sort of limited to 10 accounts, or I guess EFS storage nodes, and we can build as many as you want depending on what you have. Another thing is backup is kind of painful. So with our backup to S3, we capture everything. With NFS or EFS, you have to do your own backup. And with CIFS, you have to build your own. So you have to spin up a Windows server if you want to do that. And with Zadara, we just do a SMB3. And of course, with Object, you have AWS S3, Azure Blob, and Google has their own version, and they're both S3 compatible or Swift, which we provide also as part of our Zios product. And of course, management of your storage is very important. You can do it yourself, or you can use us as a service. So we're a service provider. We manage all the infrastructure on the storage side, so you don't have to worry about it. If there's any issues, we resolve it and provide that type of service type of capability. So in the cloud provider, so if you run in AWS, if you do anything on local storage, you have to back up and repair it. So the drives do fail in AWS. So, I mean, they're rare, but you have to look at that one-off condition where it does fail. So you have to be diligent in doing any type of backup if you're doing any local storage. With Zadara, we provide the backup tools, replace all the drives. So if there's any type of issue, and of course, everything's highly available with dual direct connects and RAID protection levels that go from RAID 1 up to RAID 6 if you need that. With NFS, you have to, same thing, you have to back up and maintain. And with AWS, they do the maintenance. They provide a very highly available system. What they do is they'll mirror the data across multiple regions, or not regions, but availability zones. So you get like a RAID 1 at least, probably RAID 1 plus multiple drives. And again, we do the same thing, but we provide that as a service. For CIFS, you have to back up and maintain. And what we provide is we provide backup to S3, and we also have a Vss integration. So, for example, if you're using a block device, we can do a VSS. We have a VSS hardware provider. It's a driver you would load with Windows, and you can actually integrate that with our technology. So when, for example, if you do a snapshot, it does a native snapshot on the VPSA, and that's the type of integration we have with VSS. With the object, this is pretty much as the backup repository. These are all done, multiple copies, usually 5 or 6 copies, so you don't really have to worry about it. It just works. And that's the same thing with our Zios. We provide a through-A mirroring, so it's just basically backup and don't worry about it, and it provides incredible redundancy on the data. So at this point, if there's any questions in the chat, Summer, did you see any questions roll by?
Yeah, Howard, there's a few questions here. First one is, does Zadara have any kind of tool that helps us sizing storage?
So we have a couple tools for sizing the storage, but it's more of what type of performance you need. So we can do based on if you want like RAID 1, we can tell you how many drives. Or if you want to map that to a RAID 6, we can tell you what type of storage you need for size. And then we also can go down to the performance. So if you have like two SATA drives, we can tell you the type of performance you have. And that's sort of a lead into next week. So we'll go over the VPSA sizing and performance, and go more detail next week.
Great. Thanks for sharing. The other two questions had to do with one attendee not being able to hear you, but he logged back in, and I believe he was able to hear you again. So that's all the questions we have for today.
Okay, fantastic. So let me put up this last slide here. This is comes up, and this is just the contact information. And please follow me on Twitter here, so at Howard Y. I do tweet once in a while with what's going on in Zadara and in my personal life. If you need to contact me or you want to connect on LinkedIn, please contact me through Howard Y. And of course, if you have any question, there's technical or whatever, I'll try to help you through my Howard at Zadara Storage. And of course, if you have a support question, that's immediate, just do support at Zadara Storage. And of course, we're also on Facebook, so you can follow us on Facebook too.
Great. We can leave this up for a few seconds here, see if anyone can copy down your information. And if there are no other questions, thank you all for joining us. You can go ahead and leave the webinar when you're ready, and we'll close out in just a few minutes or a few seconds. Thanks again for joining us. We'll talk to you next week.